Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode four. No, episode five? Wait, I should check this. I'm going to say episode. Oh, wait, I think it's episode five because, yes, it is. Episode five of We Might Be Crazy. I'm currently losing track of where I currently am in the episode series. Today, I have Yeju with me today in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Why don't you give us a little bit of an intro?
I'm so bad at introducing myself. I'll try my best. So my name is Yeju, and I am a singer-songwriter slash a Twitch musician. I'm based in South Korea, but I grew up in New York City, and I forgot to say my channel name is Yejuniverse, and I stream very frequently. I think generally like 5 to 6 times a week, and
Wait, well, wait, that's okay. We're gonna put a pin in that because that in and of itself has kind of blown my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like I go through phases though, but I mean, generally it's been like a lot. So I'm contemplating if I should like readjust my schedule. But yeah, that's what I've been doing in terms of Twitch, and then like singer-songwriter stuff. That's like my secret identity on the side.
Oh my god, I'm still kind of because I stream maybe 3 times a week, and that
Yeah.
sometimes feels like it gets a bit much.
Yeah.
Especially with all the other stuff that I'm doing. So like
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
we're gonna come back to you streaming 5-6 times a week. Is that is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
First question I have for you. So I mentioned before I did a little bit of research. I kind of just look. I say research. I mean like kind of looking around on different places, stuff that I might kind of want to talk to you about.
Mm-hmm.
I went all the way back on your YouTube channel,
Oh God. Oh no.
and
Oh Lord.
I
Oh, I
want to
gotta
know from
purge that.
you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a fan of BTS are you? And I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna clarify for the viewers. The first, I think, 14 videos are like
This is like my
fan.
archive. Ah. Well, how much of a BTS fan am I?
Yeah.
So I gotta be so careful when talking about this topic. I consider myself to be a graduated BTS fan
Oh.
because I was like a massive, enormous supporter of BTS from like early 2015
Yeah.
for like a little over like for around 5 years, 5.5 years maybe. And then I kind of graduated.
Yeah.
And that can make a lot of current BTS fans very upset. But the reason why I really liked them was what made them stand out from other artists within that genre at the time
Mm.
was that they had really good music. They were very like self-produced, very
Mm.
engaged in like songwriting and choreography, and so I really respected that. And their
Mm.
genre was also very like hip hop and I don't know. They had like a lot of very unique qualities that I
Mm.
thought played to their strengths. Whereas now, I do think they have very much blended into the like American pop music scene, which is just not really my taste. It doesn't
Mm.
fall in my preferences, and that's the reason why I kind of graduated. And not to say I hate them or anything. I'm very proud of where they've come. I just kind of do prefer their older style of music.
Totally fine. And I kind of loved how that was considerably more of an answer than I was expecting. So well
Ah.
done. You've thought about
Yeah,
this
no, I was
before.
because I was a huge fan. Like I would camp out in
Yeah.
flash floods for them. So it was, it was very big, a very big part of my life. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you've still kept up those videos on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
For people like me to go back and be like, I wonder what this is about.
Yeah. That was the day. That was a concert where I had camped out and I was like in a tent overnight, and then
Yeah.
it was pouring in the morning, and I was still like a high school student, so my homework got like soaked, and but I was just like, it's worth it. It's worth it. And I was right at the front. So yeah, it was worth it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for that bit of insight. I'm sure a lot of people, well, actually, depending on how much you talk about it, they probably might. But yeah, thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear though. I guess going back to, I guess you when you were growing up, in terms of music, because we all see you as this singer songwriter on Twitch. As you said before, streaming 5-6 times a week.
Hmm.
Um, what were your kind of beginnings, like your musical beginnings, like?
So I grew up in a household where it was impossible to not hear music because, like, my dad is an opera singer. So he is really
Ah.
loud, really freaking loud. So um, when I was when I was still like in the womb, just hanging out, my dad was working on a very famous opera, La Boheme, and he was like playing the lead role, so he was practicing all the time. And my mom liked to accompany him on the piano, and so I would just be there. And then I was born, and then she would put me on her lap while she was accompanying him on the piano. So that really just, that was how I came into the world with my dad's extremely loud, giant voice. Uh, and so I, from a very young age, was just exposed to classical music like all the time.
Do you
Yeah.
do you have perfect pitch?
I don't. I wish I
Okay.
did. I wish I
Okay.
did. I think I have a very good sense of pitch
Yeah.
usually. It can be like, it can change depending on how nervous I am, but
Yeah.
generally I'm very sensitive to pitch. And I think
I
it has to do with like the violin too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I've heard stories of people saying that like when they get exposed to classical music at like a really young age. I mean, in the womb, that it can happen sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, just growing up, I played like, I did that thing where I played like a bit of piano, but for
Mm.
me it was so boring because I felt like I was just pressing buttons. And then my sister was like having the time of her life, so she kept playing piano, and she actually played violin first when she was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to play, but I never got to until I was like 7, and I found the old violin at home and started playing it every day, and eventually like trying to prove to my mom that I could take on violin. And so it wasn't really like I was forced to play it. I kind of pushed my parents to let me play it. And then I started getting lessons, and that was when the violin thing took off for many years after that.
It's really interesting that you say that, though. I imagine most families that have like a really, it sounds like they have quite a classical background.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't force you to take lessons in anything at a young age. It's just kind of like maybe let you
They
come to it yourself.
they wanted me to do like piano because they had a
Mm.
family friend. So my sister and I would go to lessons, and I would always just like be super distracted and bored. And then she we also did some ballet where I was
Mm.
also distracted and bored. Uh, and then yeah, so it was like violin was a thing where I was like, oh, that's a cool instrument because
Yeah.
it looks extremely tedious and and meticulous, and like it's gonna give me a hard time, and it's kind of uncomfortable. And then
Yeah.
I was attracted to that.
It's not pressing buttons. There's more than one thing happening at once.
Yeah, definitely a lot more interesting to me,
Yeah.
at least. Yeah.
And did you stick with violin through? So you picked it up when you were 7. Did you stick
Hmm.
through it? Stick with it through kind of all of high school?
Yeah, so I actually was I guess it's kind of, I don't want to say gifted, but I
You're pretty good.
yeah, I was like, people, I picked it up and basically people were like, "Oh, like she kind of like has a natural um
Mm.
understanding of the instrument maybe, or it was just a little easier for me to get better
Yeah.
quickly compared to maybe other people who are just starting out. So very early on I kind of got on the radar of these like classical music educators, and there's like a very small school in Manhattan called Special Music School, a very creative name.
Mm.
And they accept about 15 students per year
Mhm.
for each grade.
Mm.
And I entered that school in
Mm.
middle school. So that was like we got like full scholarships and learned from really great teachers, and so it was like a very intense environment.
Wow.
And I played violin up until like age 15 very
Mm.
seriously. Yeah.
So at this point, it sounds like you were born and raised primarily in the United States.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
grew up in New York, just
Mm.
entirely New York City, because I moved. Like I was born in Rochester, New York.
Hmm.
Then I moved to Connecticut for like a year or 2 years, and then moved to New York City when I was 3. Yeah, and I
Amazing.
was there up until I moved to Korea.
And then, so when you were, so you said up until you were 15, you stopped playing the violin.
Mm-hmm.
Were you still in this kind of really crazy, intense music school up until that point?
Not exactly. So
Mm.
I attended like my first year of high school. I attended LaGuardia High School, which
Mm.
is like a pretty famous performing arts school
Mm.
in New York City. But it's a very big, like a much bigger school, and I felt like my mental health was really suffering around that
Yeah.
time. It really started suffering like middle school, honestly,
Mm.
through like the pressures of violin and all. So I was there for like a year, and then I transferred back to the high school, a special music school. They started a high school more recently, so it's not quite fully formed, fully developed,
Mm.
and it's a much less intense environment. So I was kind of spending most of my high school years, honestly, barely scraping by, just trying to make it through. So
Mm.
it wasn't quite the the main focus after like freshman year.
Right. And it kind of sounds like from that point, things had been so intense for you for
Mm-hmm.
violin that you just kind of got burnt out a little bit towards
Oh,
the end.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was just so much pressure from everyone,
Mm.
and I felt like a lot of the times the love that I received felt very conditional. It
Mm.
depended on like whether I did well
Mm.
in violin or not, and so I was constantly frantically trying to like earn
Mm.
the love from I think the adults in my life or
Mm.
the mentors around me. So it wasn't healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Not. And how did they react when you started to pull away from violin?
At that point, I had gotten to a very poor health, like
Mm.
a very poor state of health.
Mm.
So, um, it wasn't really something people could like argue with because they
Yeah.
were at that point happy that I was just like there.
Mm.
And for me, my entire identity was um wrapped up in violence. So it
Mm.
was also like this identity crisis began
Yeah.
of like a couple of years of me feeling really just like lost. Yeah.
So a part of the research that I've done, I've found that you are multi-talented in kind of a lot of different areas of art. So I've seen um, your art Instagram. I know that
Mm-hmm.
you post some dancing videos, like
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
No, thank you.
Was it around about this time that you started to kind of explore these other avenues of kind of creative expression?
Actually, no. From a very
Oh,
young age, I was I was like the kind of kid that was doing everything.
yeah,
Like I was really into drawing, really
yeah,
into like making things, like arts and crafts from since forever ago. I don't know, for a
yeah,
long time. And so I would kind of tackle everything I wanted to do. And dancing I would do for fun too.
yeah,
I think I started doing like the K-pop dances with a team when I was 13,
yeah.
around 13. But prior to that too, I had some exposure since it's like the it's a part of the culture I grew up in.
Mm.
So all these different hobbies were just things I would do when I was at home and bored. I never really get genuinely like bored for a long time because there's always some kind of outlet for me at home.
And now you have a cat as well, so you have another outlet of I guess enjoyment and kind of. I just adopted two cats as well, and it's
Yes,
taking up
yes.
all my time.
Oh my gosh. Oh, they're great. I mean, I when they're young, it can be a little challenging
Yeah,
with the energy, but
yeah.
yeah, he's a really amazing like partner in crime.
I'm really curious to hear though. What was it like growing up as someone from South Korea in America?
Oh, well, I my family is from South Korea. Like my
Mm.
parents are, but I'm not.
Mm.
So, I felt like in terms of like my background or
Mm.
just being like an Asian American,
Mm.
you do hear this a lot from like a lot of Asian Americans. We say like we don't really know if
Mm.
we're American enough or if we're Asian enough or
Yeah.
like from whatever country our parents are from. Um, so I think I was often very proud of like my Korean heritage, but
Mm.
also like not really sure if I was like American enough. So I'd be in school as like the only Korean kid besides my sister,
Yeah.
all throughout elementary school, and so it's like something that I was still proud of it. I
Mm.
wasn't trying to hide it. I wasn't ashamed of it. There was some like discrimination, but I think I still was very proud to be Korean. Like have a Korean background.
And you brought up your sister as well. It's kind of where your name Yejuniverse comes from, doesn't it? It's a big.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think my older sister's name is Uchu in
Uchu.
Korean, which means like universe and
Mm.
like, cosmos and all that. Um And my name in Korean doesn't mean anything, actually. The reason it was gonna have a deep meaning. I had another name lined up, but my grandma was like, no, no, that doesn't rhyme with her sister's name. So I became Yeju. So honestly, like that explains it too. But my sister and I are very close. She's like my best friend um, in life, and I think just we are always standing by each other, even if we like have our differences and clash sometimes. We get along very very well, and have since we were very very young. So that's why I thought to kind of have a play on our names just in English. I mean, it isn't. It's not like the greatest flow, honestly. I literally just like they share one letter, like Yeju and Universe. So I just like mashed it together. I was like, that's cool.
I don't know. It kind of flows off the tongue, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yejuniverse
I'm
just
glad for
flows.
that. I'm glad. When I thought of it, I was like, this is it because I think I've always I mentioned in like my bio section in Twitch too. I've always wanted more freedom to like express what I want, to pursue what I want, and not feel so apologetic for going against the grain or like what people expect of me. And so I think this idea of having my own little universe and anyone else can come on in and kind of have that same freedom that really appealed to me. Yeah.
Do you think that kind of stems from, I guess, your upbringing, the kind of the violin, the music schools, like how this strict kind of regimented structure that you kind of have to work for, I guess, yeah, work for praise and kind of work for other people, kind of now bringing it back for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I grew up sorry. I grew up an extreme like people pleaser.
Yeah.
I was very afraid of disappointing anyone. And I think there are still those tendencies that now I'm trying to like heal from and go away from that state of mind, I guess. But I did have so much pressure from such a young age, so I wanted to also experience music in a new way. Because before it was all about the rules. Like if you look at my sheet music, there were notes written all over, like specific fingerings you have to play, or bowings, or dynamic, or even the way like I breathe sometimes. My teacher has to micromanage it.
Yeah.
And that's like classical music, it's the discipline. But for me, I felt like, why am I'm literally a glorified cover artist and all I play is music by dead white guys. So I was like no, but the thing is I do respect a lot of classical musicians too, so that could come off as like super disrespectful to them, but like I love them too, but it wasn't for me in the long run. Yeah.
And so that it's really interesting that you say that, because a lot of my friends are classically trained. And sometimes they look at what I do on stream, where I play piano and I play guitar, and all I have is the lyrics and the chords in front of me, and I kind of use that to interpret. That's just kind of like the guide of like, oh, you should probably stick within these things to play this song, but then everything else is kind of up for grabs in terms of making that song my own. Is that something that you kind of have gone to, or how do you play music now?
Yeah, I don't look at sheet music. I was always the worst in music theory class because when I entered my school, like I mentioned, that special music school, I was in middle school. And by that point, all my classmates were at college level music theory.
Okay.
So they are trying to start me, someone who has no knowledge of music theory, just a bare minimum, from a college level class. And so I felt so incompetent all throughout my years of music theory class. So when I had the opportunity to just throw it away again, I did. And I honestly wish I could have processed it more, but still I'm still that person who has to run through the acronyms to remember what line is what note.
Me too.
Yeah. So, and they always say like there's some like legendary musicians, they didn't know any music theory and it's fine. Like my songwriting notebooks are all just chords and lyrics, and I just kind of improvise on the melody sometimes here and there, but I love that it's so free form and doesn't have to be the same performance every time.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting because I'm now taking I would like to take some piano lessons, but I'm worried that if I go into piano lessons, they'd be like, hey, you should learn music theory and sheet music and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't want to lose this freedom that I have now, where I can look at my chords and my lyrics and just play.
I know. I had the same thought. Like, I was like, should I take on piano?
Yeah.
But then I remember just like war flashbacks. Um, I do think the foundation can be very helpful.
Yeah.
And it's cool to be able to play an instrument like violin that not everyone can just pick up.
Yeah.
But also like, I totally understand the appeal of just having a more free-form relationship with music. I do think the flexibility allows for more, I guess, something from the heart too. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of actually that makes so much sense. Once you take everything back, it allows you to put more of yourself in what you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Oh,
my violin teachers, like, I was always praised for musicality over technicality.
yeah.
So I had like this really scary Russian teacher one time in middle school that I really didn't want to study with, but my mom forced me to. And he was like, after I played something for him, he was so angry and he was like, "You did everything wrong, but it sounded good." And so I think that was what infuriated him about me, because
Yeah.
I would do everything wrong sometimes, and then I would still like, it would still sound like nice. So that's what I like to think about my current music career.
Wait, so you're doing everything wrong, but it sounds nice? No, surely.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. Because I don't really think I'm doing everything really conventionally. I mean, even like the whole independent musician route, they always say you got to do like the social media
Yeah.
and Patreon. And I'm so bad at keeping up with everything.
It's so hard, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have a schedule for your schedule at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really curious to get to that point because this is where we're going. But
Yeah.
I've noticed that two things we haven't mentioned that you do a lot now is guitar and singing. You haven't talked about that at all. Tell me about that.
That's so true. That's so true. So I told you that I was like lost for a while.
Yep.
So it was like in late 2018. I was 16 years old when I decided to pick up, like, there's like a ukulele at home. And so I started like playing it. There was like, I used to play one song on it, which is Dream by Priscilla Ahn, when I was in like middle school. But then I started to kind of start playing it more and figure out other chords, and I would just be in my room by myself and play for like a couple hours every day, just a bunch of songs. And it was in like late 2018 when I decided to try writing a song. And there's kind of like a lengthy story behind it, but to shorten it,
no, you don't need to shorten it. Tell us a story.
Oh, I mean, like, I was suffering from a very severe eating disorder when I was in middle school. I mean, not from middle school to high school. And in my sophomore year, I had to be admitted to a hospital for about 3 months because I was in really like critical condition and they had to restore my weight. And in that time, I met my roommate, who happened to be another like massive BTS fan. So at the time, we bonded immediately through that. She was also the only other Asian person. And then I decided, like, around the time of their birthday, it was their first birthday they were celebrating since we met. And I really wanted to do something special, but coming from a low-income background, I didn't really have the money to get them something really great. And so I thought, wow, why don't I write a song that'll last forever? It'll come from the heart, and I think they would appreciate that. And so I tried writing my very first song, and that was when it just something clicked, and I was like, this is something I can see myself doing for the rest of my life. And so I started on ukulele, and guitar is an instrument I picked up about 2 years ago because I just thought it would give me more flexibility in songwriting.
Yep.
And I really wanted to I really wanted to kind of repair my relationship with the instrument as well, because I knew someone who played guitar that had like hurt me a lot in the past. It made me feel like very bad about myself, and then I had this like negative view of the instrument, and so it was almost like a mission to reclaim it. And so since then I've been playing guitar. Yeah.
I mean, I'm firstly sorry to hear that you've gone through a lot in your life, and it actually makes me really happy to see that the Yeju, at least we see now, is happy and like succeeding and thriving, and that's awesome to see. It really sounds like guitar, singing, music has been able to kind of, I guess, give you a path forward in terms of improving your mental health, and then also, like you said, repairing your relationship with the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And where did you go from there? So you've written your first song. Did you ever take any like guitar lessons or singing lessons, or is this kind of pick things up as you go?
It is all just like the internet and my ears, I
Yeah.
guess, mostly. I did like dabble in like classical singing a bit
Mm.
when I was in school because it was like part of the curriculum, but it wasn't really consistent. So I guess it's a very different style of music
Mm.
too. So I just kind of did everything at home. Yeah,
Mm.
and I'm still doing everything at home. It's perfect for the type of person I am.
Oh yeah, me too. Don't have to
Yeah,
leave the
yeah.
house. It's perfect for me.
Mhm, mhm,
So you said that was 2018 that you
mhm,
started picking all this stuff up, and then
mhm,
I had a look. Your first stream was in October 2020, so 2 years later.
mhm.
What to at that point? Like, I guess what was your journey from 2018 to 2020 when you started streaming on Twitch?
My journey was just make it through high school, make it
Yeah.
through high school. And
Mm.
in my senior year, that was when the pandemic hit. And so, honestly, I thought with my mental health, you know, going downhill
Mm.
again, I thought I wasn't going to be able to graduate.
Mm.
But honestly, it was like us going remote allowed for me to kind of recollect myself, I
Mm.
think. Obviously, it'd be much better if the pandemic hadn't happened at all.
Mm.
But I will say, in my case, just being at home
Mm.
and being able to recuperate a bit, I found that I had way more time to engage in these hobbies or
Mm.
these interests of mine. And that was where I started doing like a bit more YouTube and
Mm.
like trying to write more songs and record them. Very rough recordings, but I was enjoying doing that very regularly. And then I graduated
Mm.
and I went to college for about 3 months
Mm.
because we went there in person because they said it would be okay. But then after about 2 weeks, they sent everyone home.
Yeah.
But I opted to stay in my dorm
Mm.
and do like remote learning from my dorm. So I was in this massive like 4-person dormitory by myself
Mm.
in a new building. It was really a really nice view.
Mm.
And I had been doing a bit of like YouTube up until that point, and occasionally I would do YouTube live streams to about like maybe 10 people average.
Mm.
And they were like, "You can't sing copyrighted music here, so why don't you try Twitch?" And I was like, "Twitch,
Ah.
isn't that just for games?" I barely knew anything about the platform, but they said you should try it. So this webcam I'm using right now, actually, I bought it back then for about like $20,
Mm.
which is huge money for me.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna invest in this. So I tried it, and it started with like 2 people, including myself, watching, and
Oh,
then
it's a good start.
gradually I started to have some consistency, but I
Mm.
would say it was still challenging to really delve into it until I moved to Korea several months later.
Because I can see, I had a look back at your stats. You had, yeah, I can see the 2-person average, which then turned into 10, which was then
Mm-hmm.
30 and 40 and
Mm-hmm.
50. Then February 2021, you moved back into, actually, no, even before that. I guess, what was your initial, I guess, experience of Twitch, kind of those months? Because I want to kind of set a line in the sand
Mm-hmm.
at December 2021, where you
Mm-hmm.
have this crazy, crazy, crazy growth. And I don't think I've seen it go down since then. But up until that point, what was your experience like with Twitch? I guess interacting with people online during the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic and all that stuff.
Well, I think it was very precious to me,
Mm.
because I started it initially as sort of like an open rehearsal.
Mm.
They have those things in like classical music where you can go watch famous musicians rehearsing with the orchestra for
Yeah.
a very cheap price, and you're just like they're just pausing and discussing in between, and you're like just
Oh, they're
in the
really good.
corner. Yeah. So I was like, wow, I can do this, but like with the internet. So
Yeah.
it was like my motivation to keep practicing every
Mm.
day too. But then I started like talking with these people and noticing the same people returning like over and over again. And then I kind of knew more about them, and not to a creepy extent, but I would be like, "How are you doing? It's nice to see you again." And we started like the Discord community,
Mm.
and I think starting to understand how much my community was really like connecting with me and each other.
Mm.
um, made it so precious to me. So I never started Twitch with any goals of massive growth.
Yep.
That was never my goal. And I
Mm.
think as a musician too, I'm still not really the type to think I'm going to be on the charts someday or I'm going to win a Grammy. I honestly feel like I should be more ambitious in that regard sometimes.
Mm.
But honestly, I think my goal has always revolved around people.
Mm.
And not just people, but I've heard, people's dogs and cats enjoy my streams too. So it's like, I don't know, anyone, anything that can enjoy music. Um, I just love that we can really feel deeply. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way because you don't really get that connection. I've kind of grappled a bit with playing live, like going to a venue and playing a live show. But I always think about the elements of performing that I really enjoy on Twitch, which is just the connection that you get with the people in your chat, in your community,
Mm-hmm.
which you kind of lose. It kind of feels like if you're not playing to people who are there to see you, you you kind of lose that connection, and
Mm.
it kind of put me off performing live a lot.
I see. That's interesting. It's something that I can't quite relate to, but I understand because like I haven't been doing a lot of like live
Mm,
performances, but then like as someone who's more used to putting themselves out there in
mm.
those settings, like that's such a good point. Yeah.
And there's also the whole idea of packing up your gear and taking it with you, and then setting up, playing, leaving, then come set it back up for your Twitch stream. It kind
Mm-hmm.
of puts me off it too. But it's mainly that
Mm.
kind of gets me. Um, but it's really great because I think every person I've spoken so far has had the same like this happened during the pandemic. I really just wanted a way to perform without
Mm-hmm.
any kind of expectation of what it
Yeah,
could grow
yeah,
into.
yeah.
Um, so then February, you went from New York City, where you've lived your entire life, back to Seoul.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason for that?
So I had, well, always I wanted to experience living in Korea for at least like a year.
Mm,
When I was really young, I was like, I want to like really learn about my heritage and all that,
mm,
and fully immerse myself and get better at the language. But I just didn't know I'd do that soon. It's like I mentioned earlier, I come from a very low income background, and
mm,
we never had the money to go on vacation. So I would always be staying very local.
mm,
And it was really tough in New York City because it's a very expensive city. So beyond my music lessons, I was just going home all the time. My friends would invite me to hang out, but I didn't want to spend money.
mm,
I didn't want to burden my parents, so I would kind of decline all these offers.
mm,
And it was like, I think it was also the pandemic, just this reality hitting of like, we really don't know what's going to happen
yeah.
ever. Like we think we're so confident. Like one of the teachers I respected the most, and I still do, one of my
Mm,
biggest like role models and inspirations at school, in high school, he was like, "Yeah, this pandemic, it's just gonna be like a week or two. Like we're not gonna is or it's gonna be contained." And he was like, "We're not gonna leave school. That's ridiculous. Like we're
uh,
not gonna have to leave school."
uh.
And we did. And so I was like, "Wow, I trusted you." But
You
also like
betrayed me.
not in a I wasn't actually like that, but still it's like that kind of hard-hitting reality where I thought, okay, I don't have money, but I've saved up enough because I actually the year before I left for Korea, I had
Mm.
gotten into like a very minor car accident. Thankfully, I didn't get
Oh,
hurt. My dad was driving and the car from behind had hit us.
mm.
And so we had like insurance money, and I
Ah,
had some insurance money. It wasn't a significant amount, but it was enough for me to just move over there, find a place to stay, and then I was going to take it from there.
mm,
So I just thought I've always wanted to do this. I kind of want to get into music production,
mm,
and I want to try it in Korea, see if I can find some like studios that will take me on as like a disciple, I guess, and I'll just kind of study.
yeah,
And that was my plan.
yeah.
So I came here with actually the help of a family friend who believed in my music too. She
Mm,
helped me get the ticket. And after that, my Twitch was doing well enough that I became like financially independent as soon as I got to Korea actually.
amazing.
So yeah, that's what had brought me here.
And did you, when you came to Korea, you mentioned South Korea, you had the help of a family friend, but did you actually come over with anyone, or was it just by yourself?
No, it was just by myself.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'd never really traveled much before. I came to Korea in like 2019 once over the summer,
Yeah.
just on my own, but I was staying with a family friend at the time. And so this was something completely new. And I had to like quarantine for 14 days. And I streamed a lot during that time. I was in my element, just not leaving the house.
Yeah. What was it like, I guess, because I personally have traveled a lot, but I still think I would feel quite anxious, I guess, kind of relocating to a place where, you have ties to, but not necessarily have lived or ever spent any kind of meaningful number of time, like months, years. What was that feeling like for you?
It was very scary at times. I do have a lot of anxiety. So, like, especially in things like creating a bank account when I can't really speak Korean as like perfectly as I'd like to. So it was a lot of stuff where I would just say yes, yes, yes without really knowing what I was saying yes to.
Yeah.
But I think I was also just very invigorated by this new environment. Because I think sometimes when we're in the pits of our despair, we don't realize how much help just changing your environment would be. So that's something like I've been exploring even recently. I'm like, I think I need to change my environment. I think I need to go somewhere.
Yeah. I like that so much. In the pits of our despair, we don't know how much change can help us. Yes, I completely agree with that. And so you came to Korea and then immediately quarantined for 14 days. And were you streaming like every day during that time?
I think so. I had like nothing else to do, nothing better to do. Yeah. So that was when I think we were at a few thousand followers at the time.
Yep.
And they were all very sweet, very excited for my journey. And yeah, I was living off of like mostly instant food.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And then after the quarantine period, did you actually try to find like studios that would take you on as an apprentice, or was it mainly just kind of your time was taking up with Twitch streaming at that point?
I met some people, but then I realized a lot of people were saying a lot of very annoying, hurtful things. Like people in the industry, they can be very cynical and put you down a lot. So they would say things like, there's so many good singers in Korea, and then that would be their way of saying like, so you shouldn't even try, or it's not really worth it. And even like if relatives didn't really help me, but if they reached out, they'd be kind of like, what are you doing, like you can't really like make a living from that. And so it's just like there wasn't a lot of support, and there's so much emphasis on like your appearance here too. So I'm sure a lot of people know that about South Korea. And there's a time I was introduced to another like radio producer by this other like film TV producer, and he literally said, "This is Yeju. She's not exactly pretty, but," and then continues the introduction.
What?
I was like, imagine being introduced.
Excuse
like that.
me?
So it was really ridiculous, and I think that was why I started this thing where I really detached from society in a way that I think is keeping me alive here, because I think I would be really, really depressed if I were fully integrated into society here.
Right.
Because there's so many pressures, there's so many expectations, and as much as I love, a lot of the people I've met here too, I think that we're all kind of suffering from this tendency to try to conform. And when I'm off in my own little world, I feel like I can enjoy the conveniences that this environment offers, as well as be in maybe a better headspace overall.
And with thinking of that, then do you think you would stay in Korea long term?
I mean, I've been here for 2 years now, and I'm thinking at least another year or two. So I'm not really thinking I need to move either, because of the nature of this job, we don't really need to be in a certain place.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'm also trying to be more of like a self-produced musician. So I think the main motivation to move would be like to be nearer to family, or if I just need a change of environment again.
Yeah, it sounds like that change of environment really helped you, I guess, put things into perspective, and I guess just allow you to focus more on Twitch. Because I imagine the cost of living in Korea would probably be a bit cheaper than living in New York City, right?
Oh, significantly, yeah. I mean, Seoul can still be expensive, but you gotta know, like, if you know the good places or like
Yeah.
how to spend, how to save and stuff, it's very easy compared to New York.
Amazing. So from the point of, moving to South Korea and then continually growing, we reached this point of, December 2021. Now, pretty much you see kind of this and you
Mm-hmm.
see kind of that, like
Mm-hmm.
this exponential growth. I'm so curious to hear like what happened during that month that just kind of like exploded out of nowhere.
Yeah, so I think we were on like 11,000 followers when
Mm.
I got contacted. So up until then, I was like, wow, this has been really good. Like, I think this is pretty decent
Yeah.
for like growth rate on Twitch,
Mm.
and my community was really proud and we were celebrating. And then like this person from Twitch contacts me and says like, we're gonna put you on the front page for like 5 to 8 days. Hope you think of it as a good opportunity. And I was like, wow, this is cool. But I was also, of course, a little scared
Yeah.
because I didn't really know what that would look like. And then we were on the front page, and boom, suddenly like thousands of people were watching. And I was like, what the heck? Because I think prior to that, it was like maybe 100
Yeah.
people were watching, and that was also really awesome.
Yeah.
But then suddenly, just so many people. And what happened was I was waiting. Well, I was just working really hard every day, streaming for hours to take advantage of the front page opportunity.
Yep.
But then 5 days passed, 8 days passed, and we were still there. And then like 2 weeks passed, still there. 3 weeks passed, 1 month passed, 2 months passed, 3 months passed, half a year passed, and then a year passed, and we were still there. And it was
Wow.
that's why suddenly it just like we got so much exposure.
Yeah.
And I think at that point maybe some people at Twitch like wanted maybe my stream to be one of maybe like they wanted me to represent that category for a bit because they're trying to push the music category forward. And they were like, maybe they saw my stream and were like, this has like the aspects of music, like, or this has the traits that we want to represent. Yeah, and I think there were a lot of other musicians qualified for that too, but I think it was my like maybe consistency too, just because I had a lot of time compared to maybe other musicians that were doing live gigs and producing their own music and weren't really able to be as consistent.
How did you cope mentally with just this sudden increase in viewership, going from 100 people to suddenly 4, 5, 6,000 plus?
I don't really know if I coped well, honestly, because I had a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And then it didn't help that, there were like a lot more trolls at that point. They would be saying things like, you're only getting viewers because you're, I don't know, a cute Asian girl, or they'd be racist. There was a lot of racism that I had to deal with suddenly, like a lot more. And so it just every day I felt like I was running without really knowing where I was going, not in an exhilarating, freeing way, but rather a very lost and frightening like way. And because it lasted so long, I think only now am I starting to recover and stuff. That makes it sound so bad, but like I'm so grateful for the opportunity, of course, but that much exposure suddenly and then lasting for that long can be a lot to grapple with mentally. Yeah.
Especially because you think about just the average streamer on Twitch, they kind of work up to that point where they're suddenly having thousands of people watching. For that to come out of nowhere and then not really having much experience in the way of dealing with having thousands of people in your chat, I can completely understand that there will be things that you've taken with you along that journey, and you're probably only really now just like kind of letting go of it. I completely understand that.
Yeah, it was kind of like also the thing about wait, whoa, I totally lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Oh, wait, I swear I had it. Oh yeah, it was like I would overcompensate because I felt like I didn't deserve it. So I pushed myself to work way harder because I felt like there's no other way. I have to prove that I can, that I'm worthy of this to myself more so than even to other people. So that's why I got into that habit of taking. There was like 1 month where I took like 2 days off, and another month where I took 3 days off. So it was really unhealthy. Yeah, I wouldn't advise it.
I honestly, well, I mean, that's the perfect segue into the question that I've been wanting to ask all stream. How do you do it? Or interview, or how do you do it? How do you stream
Mm-hmm.
5 6 days a week? I just need to know.
I think it's like habit,
Yeah.
and for me, I I kind of have a very. It's like at first you hear and like, oh, that's pretty good, like supporting other people in my
Mm.
life. That's something I do, but I do it to an extreme degree
Yeah.
where I feel like I have to do these things. I'm always like,
Mm.
I have to do this in order to support these people, in order to do this. So I feel like so much of this growing career has been me thinking I have to do this so
Mm.
I can support my family. I have to do this so I can um, have this security, and I think that has to do with just that scarcity growing up, and probably a whole other lot of other things that I
Yeah.
experienced growing up. And so I'm trying to now reshape my approach and begin to do these things more for myself.
Mm.
It's
What does
good
that look
to,
like though?
like, I
Doing more
think
for yourself.
for me, I was doing Twitch all the time, and it was kind
Mm.
of, I'm an introvert, and
Yeah.
so I have a social battery, and like everyone does, but like my social battery gets drained pretty easily.
Mm.
And I'm like an extroverted introvert, so I've
Me
got,
too.
yeah, I've got the
Yeah.
good social skills. So
Yeah.
people are like, oh wow, she's great, she likes talking to me, and then I'm gonna keep talking to her. And I feel bad to be like, oh, I'm a little tired, I'm gonna go. So in my personal life and in my work life, I was constantly interacting with people,
Yeah.
and I felt this pressure to like keep doing it all the time. I'm terrible at saying no to people.
Yeah.
So if they want to hang out and I really am not up for it, I still say, yeah, I'll hang out. And after 2 hours, I want to leave, but then they still wanted to hang out, so I'll stay for like 5 hours. And it's this terrible thing that just keeps on repeating. It's the worst. So, like right now, I just am starting to realize more and more how important it is for me to say no, how important it is for me to not stream on days when I feel like my brain is breaking. Because there are so many of my streams. You can watch the VODs and I'll seem perfectly fine. But on the inside, I'm like, my brain is shattering because it's just been too much and I'm very overwhelmed. And yet I would like kind of still work through that.
How long would your
And
average
yeah,
streams go for?
honestly, during like the front page time, I think it was like 3 to 5 hours.
Mm.
Yeah. And now it's gotten more to 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. And like I've been taking more like unexpected days off, maybe less consistent, because I realized I also had this thing this feeling that started growing throughout my time on the front page, where I know this isn't like true and it's not fair, but I would feel like I wasn't a legitimate musician. Because I actually admired more like the artists on Twitch that were only streaming like once a week because they were so busy with gigs or busy with releasing their own music. And I felt like, wow, I'm such a like fake musician to be just like covering songs all the time. And I'll like I'll sing my originals, but I won't even record them, I won't release them. And so I started feeling this like extreme incompetence, I think, as well as I was feeling stifled because there's a lot I wanted to write and a lot that I wanted to record, but I kept telling myself I don't have the right resources to make it sound just right. But only recently have I started once again to get into the whole like self-producing routine, I guess. And it's been so fulfilling. I think I'm starting to once again rediscover that passion that can keep me busy for hours.
It's really interesting that you say that you didn't feel like a real musician, because it's something that I've kind of grappled with as well. Because I basically gave up music for 10 years and then picked everything back up during COVID.
Wow.
So when you're around so many other fantastically talented musicians who are also musicians as their day job, like there's this level of I guess imposter syndrome and incompetence that you feel, because you might be having some success, but then you look at just the skills of this other person. It's like, why are people even watching me? Like, why are people even here? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I would always say to my community, I'm just like, thank you for choosing to be here. You don't have to be here. There's so many other streams. Like, why are you here? Like it just always be like I had no idea. It was so confusing to me because I
Yeah.
would watch other musicians and be like, oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good. Or I mean, music isn't even the top category. It's far from it
Yeah.
on Twitch. We're like this little tiny corner of
It's a little
like
island in the
forgotten
universe of
luggage.
Twitch.
I don't know. But like I think it's grown into something really beautiful now.
Mm.
I really do appreciate the music category a lot, and I hope it keeps growing. But I guess all musicians, all our creatives, a
Mm.
lot of us are just cursed with that imposter syndrome. It does make some really good art sometimes,
Oh,
though,
it does. It really
right?
does. Absolutely does.
Uh-huh.
And it's really interesting that you bring up the music category, because I talk a lot about, I guess, streaming and music on Twitch in particular. Obviously, this is about creatives online, but I am really, really optimistic for the future of this thing that we're doing, like this
Mm-hmm.
streaming music on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think this will grow into in the future? Do you think it's kind of going to explode? Do you think it's just going to like where do you think it's going to go?
For now, I'm happy we have a platform because
Mm.
it's kind of a lot less likely people are going to go find a separate platform for music streaming.
Mm.
Like, I know there are some things like Sessions Live, like
Yeah.
they try to do
Yeah.
it, but it's just not sustainable because not a lot of people are going to be looking for that kind of thing.
Mm.
But if you put it on like a big platform like Twitch, then, we're going to be able to slowly make our way out. So I think I want to say I think it's gonna keep doing well. I mean, it's already
Mm.
grown a lot over this past year where the Twitch staff was really focusing on pushing the
Yeah.
category. And we got T-Pain. T-Pain is on our side. So,
I mean, game over at this point, right? Just you got to get like
yeah.
another,
Yeah.
get another someone else in there, and it's just
Yeah,
gonna go
there
out of
there are a
control.
lot of like established musicians out there with big fan bases who started using Twitch for music.
Yeah.
So that's another big thing. So I do see it growing a lot. I hope that people can continue to venture into that category.
Absolutely. And the thing that I've realized the most is it's giving people like us who might not have the conventional career in music a way to release, create music, build an audience that you might not have gotten if not for this platform.
Oh, absolutely. I think I always reflect on the things I'm like grateful for, and one of
Mm.
them is always like that we can be we have far more resources to be self-made in this
Yeah.
generation than like previously, like
Yeah.
than ever before, because technology is only getting better, more advanced, and we like I barely leave my house, and I am able to sustain my life, like and like support my family too.
Yeah.
But I don't even have to take the subway during rush hour.
Yeah.
It's something that I will never take for granted either. And that's also the point I use to like encourage other people to put
Mm.
themselves out there too, since like there are so many ways to create your own career now.
So a big inspiration for this podcast is exactly that, encouraging
Mhm.
people to take advantage of the things that are happening now that
Mhm.
are starting to bubble out.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to people wanting to start a music career through Twitch or YouTube?
Start. Because oh my god, so many people talk to me about how they want to start and they take forever to start.
Yeah.
My sister's one of those people. She took over a year. She just kept saying, yeah, I'm gonna start Twitch, I'm gonna start Twitch, she had like this mic just collecting dust that I had bought for her. She never used it. And like and just she immediately got like a new mic too after she started streaming, just super annoying. But it's like these people say they're gonna do it and then they don't, and I'm always like that too. Like I think I'll always have many reasons of why I can't start. It's like I'm not
Mm.
ready yet, or I need this thing before I can start. I need this level of skill before I start.
Yeah.
But starting is not even the half of it. Like the expression, starting is 95% of it, I feel like nowadays.
I love that. Yeah.
Like you really just need to start, and then you're gonna experience it. Maybe it'll catch on immediately. You'll get this like kind of, I don't know, you feel this rush when
Yeah.
you start to communicate and start to grow your community, and then consistency is kind of naturally born from that. I think you keep wanting to go back, I'd say if you're dreading it every time you stream, maybe it's not right for you.
Yeah.
But if you're finding that you enjoy it after just simply starting,
Yeah.
then that's like already that's the beginning of something.
So for me, I started streaming on Twitch, and then I remember every day that I would stream, like I would
Mm-hmm.
always sit there at like maybe 4 or 5 hours before. I'm just like, I just want to stream. I want to get on. I want to do it now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting that you say that, because I think that there's never really been a point, other than maybe when I streamed for 18 days straight, where I was kind of getting on and like dreading streaming. It's
Mm-hmm.
always this kind of like excitement that I've felt. But yeah, you are completely right. You just need to start, and then everything else will kind of work itself out if it's something that you want to do.
Yeah, that for everything I've done in my life, I feel like most of the issue is always just me not starting.
Yeah.
The excuses, yeah.
And at what point, this is something that I normally ask a little bit earlier in the conversation, but we've been talking for nearly an hour, and I'm happy to keep going because this
Oh
is
wow,
such an
yeah.
amazing conversation.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you feel that way.
No, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize, oh, this actually might be a full-time thing for me? Like I can actually sustain a life through online streaming. When did you realize that, and how did that make you feel?
I guess I realized it when I started being able to support myself, like when I became financially independent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, like, because I grew up with the whole like sad musician trope, you know, like the failed musician in a big city,
Yeah.
barely making enough money to support themselves, and yet alone like a family, like so it's just I think also I don't really think of I still think first and foremost singer songwriter, that title is very like or that's like more important to me. I mean not title, but that job, that aspect of my career, because I love streaming, but I can't really see myself being a Twitch streamer forever. And I've always said this to people too. I never want my life to depend on a company like Twitch. Like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I don't think it's stable.
Yeah.
I don't think it's stable. So my brain is always prepared for disaster. But in a weird way. Like I like to prepare just enough for my spontaneity to like come out. So I described it I described it to my community like this. Like I'll be going in one direction and I'll pave a road, but rather than a narrow path,
Yeah.
I pave an extremely wide road so that I don't have to walk straight. I can do like the drunk, like toppling and like kind of stumbling in weird directions, but inevitably like I'm still going that same way. I'm just kind of allowing for a lot more flexibility.
You're allowing for roadblocks to come up, and then you just kind of swerve in the other direction. It's like, oh, I guess I'm going this way now.
Yeah, because I like planning, but I also don't like restricting myself.
Yeah.
So I plan the backups so that I can take the leap. It's kind of like setting down a mattress before jumping off a really high point, or you know, you set up just in case it doesn't work. Like,
well, it's
that's
actually similar to what I did, because I'm not sure if you know much about me, but I got made redundant at my job. I was always planning on trying to go full time on Twitch, and obviously I'm quite a small streamer, so obviously me expecting to make a full time wage from stream is a little bit unreasonable. So I saved up just as much as I could to allow me to do this for as long as I thought I needed to make it work.
Wow.
So it's the idea of throwing the mattress before you jump is very much something I align with.
Yeah, I respect that so much. It's like you're really going after what you think is right for you. And
but what are your plan Bs in terms of your wide path that you're paving?
My wide path that I'm paving. Oh man, this goes in like all different directions.
Tell me.
So I have a lot of backup plans.
Yeah.
It's like my backup plan when I came to Korea was like, I'm gonna try this for a year. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna go back to school.
Yep.
Because one of the reasons I left was because my given that we didn't have a lot of money, my sister was in college too, so I thought we should prioritize her, like graduating first. So I would like start working and maybe be able to support her, and then go back to college later. And but then now for my career, I think one thing that Twitch has done for sure has broadened. It's like really broadened my mind, because before I was optimistically thinking like, yeah, I can do it if I put my mind to it.
Mm.
But then I think now I can even like realistically think like if I really wanted to do this, wanted to do something, there's a way. So, um I guess for music, it's like Twitch is almost like my safety net right now
Mm.
because I want to be like a singer-songwriter and I want to create more original music and perform.
Oh, so are you saying that Twitch is kind of your plan B?
It's almost like rather than a plan B,
Like just
it's
a
like
way to kind of help you pursue things that you want in your
mhm.
musical career,
Twitch
right?
is like the seed of the career. I feel like it's maybe my roots are now like in Twitch, I
Yeah.
suppose. And so in the case that I'm not able to fully sprout, I can always like have my roots there.
Yeah.
And it's something that, I'm so grateful for the people that I've come to know through Twitch, like
Yeah.
community and friends. And so it's like that motivator. And then also, since I can support myself financially through Twitch as well, that's been a great help because that's my way of being able to continue pursuing, like on the side, like my original music. And I can, um, all that like time I have
Yeah.
outside of stream can be put to this
Oh,
other goal.
sorry. I just opened up in a separate tab because I wanted to make
Mm-hmm.
sure I got the name right.
Mm-hmm.
My next question was going to be um, I really loved your Doesn't It All Sound Wonderful music video.
Mm.
I thought it was absolutely amazing.
Oh,
And I
thank
was
you.
hoping that you could, I guess, tell us a little bit more about the journey of creating that particular song and then recording the music video and then how your community and your, I guess, Twitch stream might have kind of helped create all of that.
Mm. So that song was I usually write my songs like I think my average songwriting time is like 30 minutes to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I wrote that first like part of the song up until the end of the first chorus. I think that was like within like 40 in a 45-minute writing session.
Yeah.
And then I forgot about it. And I like and I sent the recording like the lousy phone recording to my sister and she
Yeah.
was like this is so good. Like I would listen to this. I actually would listen to this a lot.
Yeah.
And so that really stuck with me. And then I was going through that thought process again of like, oh, I'm not a real musician. I don't release music, blah, 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 blah. Like despair, feeling
Yeah.
sad. And then I remembered like my friend who's a streamer here, a music streamer here, as well as YouTuber, Charming Joe. He's got like a distribution label and a whole team, and he said that
Wow.
I can use them if I if I need to or if I want to. So I reached out to him and I was like, I have this song that I think would be good to produce like more professionally. And so I sent it to them and they really liked it. So then we started working on it. I finished the song and then worked with the producer and music video. I actually don't really like the music video very much because
Really?
it wasn't like my idea at all.
Okay.
Like I wasn't a big fan of like the Office thing because I mean, it's not really relatable to me. It wasn't really the meaning of the song. I had like a whole vision, but obviously maybe not within budget or within the time frame. And we actually had to squeeze it in within a really short time frame. So essentially, the whole idea was was planned by the team, and but I am of course really just happy to have like an official looking thing on my YouTube. Because I thought, either way it adds to the portfolio.
It's really interesting that you say that because I guess the way that music video has kind of portrayed the song is kind of it's a song about I guess maybe dreaming of a life that you could have, and it's kind of like taking that jump. And I guess I'm now really curious to hear where would you have taken that?
I think I was kind of envisioning more like outdoor shots too. It just felt like although we were like dancing around in an office space, it still felt so controlled.
Yeah.
Like I needed something more like running around outside.
Yeah.
Completely limitless, but I still think like I was so grateful for the team and everyone involved. It was just like kind of a stressful, tense, like all within a short period of time.
Yeah.
So when I think about it, I'm like, oh wow, that was rough. I don't know if I could do that again. But obviously, if in the future I'd like to make more music videos, I just think maybe it could be even less planned, honestly, in the future when I'm doing like doesn't have to be yeah, it doesn't have to be anything super intricate, but maybe it's just like it's just one of those things again where we're like we are our own like harshest critic.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as for the song itself, I think I'm still trying to find that sound that feels very genuine to me.
Mm.
So even now, like when I just listen to my acoustic version, the original version of Doesn't It All Sound Wonderful, I feel like it rings truer to me than a fully mixed and mastered and fully like realized version. I don't know, there's this beautiful I really like old recordings. Like when I listen to like the Carpenters or something, you just don't really hear as much of the crazy mixing we do now. Obviously,
but I think it's also ties in with the fact
too.
that we play music and it's not perfect. Like
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
like streaming 3-4 hours a day, like it's not perfect and it's kind of scuffed. And I think a lot of the beautiful, like what a lot of people like about what you and I do is we know that it's not perfect, but we do it anyway, and we keep doing it. And sometimes that gets lost when you go to a studio and they're like, make everything super perfect.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like I have to make sure my voice doesn't shake or my vibrato is even. And that kind of throws me off because, you know, there's that meme. I've mentioned this to people before. When my voice gets mixed here, like in a more professional, by a professional, I feel like, you know, that SpongeBob meme where he's like really smooth, like a soap bar? I feel like I become that SpongeBob. Like it's just so smoothed out that like I'm just like shiny and squeaky clean, but it doesn't feel like me. Even though it is my voice, it's just like there's like all that compression in the voice and then like the auto tuning. I love singing in tune. I really do. It's like I want to take all the credit for having perfect intonation. But then I'll listen to like older recordings of like Fleetwood Mac, and then you just hear they're not auto-tuned, and it's pretty magical too, because you really feel like you're there in the room with them.
There's such a difference, I think, because I do a little bit of auto-tune for some of my YouTube stuff just because, you know, sometimes it's really off. I'm like, ugh, gotta fix that. But there is such a difference from having it on versus having it off, and it just feels a lot more natural.
And
sounding.
like there are varying degrees of it. So I think a little is wonderful. Like I think a little goes a long way for me in mixing and mastering. But I think the general, like a lot of musicians in Korea really want a perfect polished sound. And I think that really shows when I work with like, you know, people who mix and master here. They're very good at what they do, but it doesn't quite fit my genre and my style of music.
Is that why you're leaning towards self-production?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly why. Because I've worked with some people here and I respect them very much. They're far more skilled than I am. But then I'm also like, I don't really know if I can keep doing this because I feel like I'm disappearing every time it gets like edited.
You just kind of fade into what everyone else sounds like rather than what you sound like.
Yeah, it's a little too clean. Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear as well, because you've been streaming for so long. How do you think that you've developed in terms of your singing and playing over the last 3 years? And I guess where would Yeju look? I guess how would you feel? I guess starting the journey, knowing what was to come, and kind of look back on that moment.
If I had like known what was coming?
Yeah, if you, I guess, like how would you feel if you knew what was coming?
Oh God. I think I would still find ways to deny it. Like even like my numbers or whatever, if I see this many followers, I still find ways to deny it. I'm like, 90% of you are bots. So like yeah, it's really hard to accept. So that's something that I'm like, I don't even think if someone told me this is gonna happen for sure, I'd still be like, nah, you're joking. But in terms of like guitar and singing, I definitely got better. Like guitar, I still like I have a lot of desire to get better, and I feel like I haven't really been practicing in a good way. Like I kind of just play through songs, but you're not really gonna grow if you just keep playing through songs. you get more used
Yeah.
to playing the guitar, but you could be practicing bad techniques and habits. So
I
I'm
have a theory with
trying.
that
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
I think that if you are only the only practice that you get is playing on stream, like you're not actually practicing or getting better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I started making this deal with myself where like I'm trying to enforce this rule where I can only stream after I've practiced guitar for a while. Yeah.
Ah.
There are like certain things that I want to do to grow as a musician, and I'm starting to make it this policy where I have to do a bit of it before I do the stream. Otherwise, I really get sad because for a long period of time I'll feel like I'm not growing. Yeah.
Have you ever actually delayed a stream or not streamed at all because you haven't practiced your guitar?
Um, it's like more recent that I
Okay.
started doing this, so not exactly. And I guess it changes like the policy, like whether it's guitar or something else.
Yeah.
And my singing though, yeah, has also improved greatly because
Mm.
just when you sing for a long time, you just naturally become more stable, I guess. Yeah.
But how does your voice? Because I really struggle singing 2 days in a row.
Mm.
Because my voice, I maybe I push too hard. Like, how does your voice
Mm-mm.
handle, I guess, so much consistent singing?
Yeah, I always tell people that you should, when they ask me for singing advice, I say, well, first and foremost, I'm not a professional at
Mm.
all, but I would say I don't strain ever. Like,
Mm.
really. There are songs where I can feel the strain, and so I will intentionally alter the song or not sing it as much or save
Mm.
it for a certain time because I know some songs are just not really like if I sing it that way, it's I can't sing. It's like when you go to karaoke once and you lose your voice for a week
Yeah.
because you're just like shouting. So it's more like the way you approach the song. You can do it in a way that it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. I've recently started taking down all of my songs, maybe a tone or a tone and a half, just to kind of make it easier for me to sing.
Yeah, yeah, that's important too. I'm always changing the keys of songs, always.
Now, when I listen to you sing, though, let me know if I'm on the mark or off the mark here. But
Uh-huh.
and I know we've talked about this in DMs, but I kind of just hear a lot of Aurora's influence in your voice and your way of
Uh-huh.
playing. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
is that kind of something that you're actively kind of thinking about, or is it just like,
No, actually, it was so funny because I discovered her after I had started songwriting.
mm,
And when I heard her song, uh, I was immediately like, wow, like this sounds like something that like it's very in line with my like style.
mm,
There's a song I had written before discovering Aurora called like Winter Tears, which I thought actually reminded me a lot of her music.
mm,
And so I think it was like after discovering her, I felt like I had found my home.
mm,
And so now I do keep her in mind too,
yeah.
like how much I love her music, and but I don't think I could ever fully like replicate her
No,
style
and you would want
because
to, right?
that's her own thing and she
Mm,
does it best. So it's more just like I have multiple influences, but also something comes from within, and I don't really know what it is or where it's from. But it's like a blend of all those things that make up my style, which
mm.
I'm still exploring, as I mentioned.
No, and I'm really interested to hear as you get better with production, as you start to really understand what it is that makes you you, where that goes as well. Because yeah, I mean, the song that you put out, doesn't all sound wonderful, is great, but you're
Mm.
right, it's very produced, it's very keen to see where that goes with the more kind of stripped back and I guess raw and authentic vocals for you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really exciting. Um, so I like to finish things up
Mm-hmm.
with a question of who, and this can be actually I would like to start with Twitch, but then we'll start with people outside of Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you say are your biggest influences on Twitch, and who do you think you've kind of looked at to grow from?
Huh. This is like a little tough to say because I feel like the order of everything is all mixed up.
Yeah,
But like, I so my community knows this too. I don't really watch a lot of Twitch.
me too. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I first started, the first music streamer I ever watched was Hazy,
Mm.
And I just, because I was like, so let's see what this Twitch music thing is about. And then I saw her stream. I was like, wow, this is an Asian person. She's got quite a lot of viewers. Let's see what this is like. And so it was really cool to see someone who's, Asian like me and doing music on this platform. So I was just exploring. And then I think I only watched her stream like that one time. And then I tried it. And then like, as I started like learning what a raid was and that I was supposed to do that and in fact watch the stream after, like I would just send people off but like not stay because I didn't know. I was like, yeah, so I started watching more streams, and I think in that way like the passion of some other musicians really inspires me. So like musicians like yourself too, who are really investing in what they believe in, like, and what they want to do and what they want to show to their audience and to the rest of the world. I think it's just such a beautiful thing, and I always it always can reignite my own passion when I'm feeling down. There's some streamers like one of my favorite music streamers is Kaldenberg from South Africa.
Oh, I came across Kaldenberg's stream just before, and I didn't know that they were a professional Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
It's wow. Yeah, I was blown away.
Yeah, I've rated his channel so many times now. So many times. Like while I was on the front page, I just kept rating whenever we overlapped, because this is like a person that is so passionate and so like you can just feel the passion. Like there are musicians on Twitch, some of them that just really exude that passion. And I think another one is like Sharika Sherrard.
I haven't heard of them.
I kind of butchered her name, but she's a singer-songwriter, or they're singer-songwriter from London. Just amazing talent, amazing passion. I love the buskers, the people who are street performing. And there's like Calvin, right? Calvin Thomas?
Yes, Calvin Thomas, yep.
Yes, I love his streams. There's Ben from UK, and then there's like Oho, my friends Oho. They're a Korean indie duo.
I rated into Oho. They gave me probably the best rendition of Hey Jude I've ever seen in my life.
They did that for me too.
And then they get into the da 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 da.
Yeah. It was amazing. That when I came in, they're like, Yeju. So I love them just as people and as musicians. They're always really inspirational too, in how like passionate they are. I just love seeing like all these musicians who are doing what they are really passionate about, and sharing that energy with all of us and their talents too.
It's really interesting because my first guest on the show was Darren Salvi, and Darren said something that's kind of stuck with me, and I've thought about it ever since. But he said that Twitch music for him has felt like the only place where he hasn't necessarily felt competitive with music, because everyone is just so supportive in terms of promoting everyone's like music and encouraging. Like I love that, because you can just have these places on the internet where it's really toxic and really, really bad to be, but then you come into Twitch music and you're just like, oh, hold on, this is actually kind of okay.
Yeah, I think some of the problems that are really prevalent in other categories are completely absent, or just barely there in the music category. For example, like there are a lot of issues where big streamers or at an event like TwitchCon, you have all these streamers in one place and they judge each other based on their follower count. And sometimes you get people not treating you very nicely because you don't have a lot of followers. But then I feel like with Twitch music, there's just so many lovely people who we're just like, oh my god, you're so talented. And we almost like we worship and admire each other for that. And we're all like down to collaborate. We're all down to, because it's like for us, it doesn't really matter our follower count, because the algorithm's also just really messy. It's tough to figure out. And that doesn't make these people any less talented or valuable as musicians. And so we don't really have as much of that prejudice. And I think that makes us a lot freer, like you said. Yeah.
How was TwitchCon? Because I know you performed.
Yeah, it was great. I had a lot of fun. I met so many cool people who were like in totally different categories too. I met some there's a song I sing every time I hit 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
And that the artist who wrote that song was at TwitchCon.
Oh,
We
amazing.
have like a mutual friend, and she was just so nice to me. She's like, I watch your streams too. And it's like, what the heck? It was mind-boggling. I loved meeting everyone, especially like the music streamers. There's something so different about the way they talk. Like, I don't know. A lot of them, the ones who are like still pursuing like music careers fully outside of Twitch, the way they talk about what they're doing and what they want to do, it's like you can see like the sparkle, and it's really really beautiful and lovely. I feel like we have these I think we can really relate to each other in that way.
Because you guys are both, well, everyone in, well, I guess talking about Twitch music specifically, like we're all trying to do the same thing. And the thing I find most beautiful about Twitch music is no one, like there isn't necessarily a blueprint kind of laid out for us. Whereas maybe in some of the categories, like you can kind of look at what other people are doing. Like there isn't really like like here's how you become like a Twitch musician, streamer person. Like we kind of just have to make it up ourselves, and then we meet people and kind of bring them along our journeys. But then you can always I always know when I'm talking to a musician on Twitch, because there is just like passion, and there's this idea that like I cannot believe that I'm doing my music full time and people are actually watching. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. There's none of that. I feel like there's a lot less of this ego, maybe. I mean, maybe some artists have more. I think a little ego can be good.
Of course.
But I think it's just not in like excess.
Yeah, 100%. Now I'm really curious to hear, I want to give you the chance to, I guess, maybe shout anything out that you're working on. Is there anything you've got planned? Anything coming up that you wanna promote?
Gosh, I'm so bad at promoting myself. When Doesn't It All Sound Wonderful was released, I could barely talk about it for 10 minutes before feeling like I was taking up too much time.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so bad at it, but I will say, like lately, I'm learning a lot about myself, beyond just like as a musician or a Twitch streamer, just my cognitive tendencies, I guess, and finding ways to heal any like wounds that maybe were overlooked or for the past year, because I've been running with the front page and all that. Great opportunity, but also I became so clouded. So I think now I'm really trying to, like I said, self-produce, and I'm hoping that you can just in general look forward to a lot more original music this year. And I'm not saying studio quality recording, but even just like maybe this is my SoundCloud artist era. I'm gonna try to at least have something. I don't want it to be perfect, because that's always been my crutch, this perfectionism. So I'm just gonna try my best, I think, to share what I already have and that process of my growth, so you can hear this is where we started and this is where we're going.
I think if there's going to be one thing that I'm going to take away from this conversation is that, because I, for the longest time, have been like, I need to go to a studio. I need to work with someone who knows what they're doing. And through this conversation, I've kind of realized that, people kind of just listen to me because of the imperfections. And I think when you take that away, it's not necessarily me. So I don't know, maybe you've inspired me, Yeju, to pursue my own SoundCloud artist.
Oh wow! I mean, I hope you do. Let's do that together.
100%.
Like, I think it's a wonderful, like, I don't know, just it's wonderful to really push yourself to share what you have instead of hiding in the dungeons until you have the perfect masterpiece that will represent you for the rest of your life. We gotta stop thinking that way.
And I'm gonna quote that. I'm gonna clip it, because that is perfect way to end this interview. Yeju, thank you so much for coming on. You have been an absolute amazing guest, and
thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed your time.
Yeah, I really did, and I think it'd be really awesome to do like more talks like this in the future too. So I wish you all the
There will
best
be a
too.
part two. Don't worry. I have. We've been talking for nearly an hour and a half, and I still have
Uh-huh.
some things. In the interest of people listening, we'll cut it. Keep it to an hour and a half. But there will be a part two. Don't worry.
Thank you.